Hello, my name is Katie and welcome to my video. Today I wanted to discuss 10 series that I haven't started yet but that I want to, and I don't know what's been holding me back. I would love, if you have read any of the series that I'm going to discuss, to go ahead and leave a comment and tell me which one you think I should prioritize, or if maybe there are some that just aren't worth reading in general. There are two series in which I already own the first book, so I'll start with those. The first is the Devapad Trilogy, I think. I know there's at least 2 books out, but this first one is The City of Brass. In this book we're following Nari, and she's a con woman. And in one of her cons, she inadvertently summons a Jinn warrior. And he begins to tell her the story of this city called Daevabad. And she decides that she wants to go there. However, her arrival in this city may start a war, is what I believe it's about. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this book will be really cool because it's set in a world that's different from the typical fantasy setting. Reading this, it doesn't feel very like European fantasy, which is really good. I've read a lot of that, and to be honest, it gets boring after a while. So I think this is something that's a little bit fresh. Also, I haven't heard anybody give this a bad review yet, so I'm very interested to get to this soon. The next series that I want to get to is The Diviners by Libba Bray. This is like an alternate 1920s New York in which there's a lot of paranormal things happening. And in this one in particular, I know we're following kind of a bit of a murder mystery as well. This is one that I hear mostly good things about, but every occasionally I'll hear somebody who didn't like it or had an issue with it. I don't typically go for paranormal, but I do enjoy alternate like 1920s-ish eras, and also the fact that there's kind of a bit of a murder mystery element really has me intrigued, so I'm hoping to get to this sooner rather than later. I feel like October's a good time for paranormal, so maybe I'll throw it on my October TBR and try it then. The next series that I desperately need to get to, because it's kind of had a resurgence lately of people reading it and absolutely falling in love with it, so I've been hearing about it on a lot of different channels, and that's the Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemison, the first book being the 5th season. And I believe in the first book, it's kind of like almost like the end of the world. Like something happens and food and water and just basic survival things become very scarce. I've heard that the writing style can be a little bit hit or miss for people because it is written in second person, which I don't personally have a lot of experience reading. Although I think if the story is good enough, it's not going to bother me. And really, I haven't heard anybody complain once they adapted to how it's written. Everyone seems to totally love the series, so I think I should probably prioritize that a little bit. Although I think I've probably said that about every series so far in this list. The next series I want to get to, I think, is actually a duology, and it's, the first book is Criers War. I don't actually know a ton about Criers War. The cover mostly sold it to me, and then I heard there's like an automaton aspect, which I like. Maybe I'll just read the synopsis, because I don't think I'll be able to do it justice. Impossible love between 2 girls, one human, one maid, a love that could birth a revolution. After the War of Kinds ravaged the kingdom of Ravu, the Otome, designed to be the playthings of royals, took over the estates of their owners and bent the human race to their will. Now, Ayla, a human servant rising the ranks at the house of the sovereign, dreams of avenging the death of her family by killing the sovereign's daughter, Lady Crier. Crier, who was made to be beautiful, to be flawless, and to take over the work of her father. Crier had been preparing to do just that, to inherit her father's rule over the land, but that was before she was betrothed to Sire Kinnock? Oh my god, these names. Who seems to have 1,000 secrets. That was before she discovered her father isn't as benevolent as she thought. That was before she met Ayla. Set in a richly imagined fantasy world, Nina Varela's debut novel is a sweepingly romantic tale of love, loss, and revenge that challenges what it really means to be human. So I'm very interested in reading that, and since it's just a duology, it's kind of less intimidating because you're not signing on for like a long haul, you know. The next series on my list is the Winternight Trilogy by Katherine Arden. The first book in that series is The Bear and the Nightingale, and it largely surrounds Russian folklore and fairy tales. And there is our main character, and her father brings home a new stepmother. The stepmother is dead set against honoring the spirits that are told of in these fairy tales. Our main character does not like this, and there ends up being a struggle there of some kind. It sounds like such a great series. I've heard it talked about for quite a long time, and this is another one where honestly I don't think I've heard a negative review of it ever. So hopefully I will get to that one soon. It feels like a good book for winter. However, I live in California, so winter isn't really a thing that happens, so I pretty much read it whenever I want to. The next series on my list is the Great Library series by Rachel Caine. The first book in that series is Ink and Bone. In this universe, the Library of Alexandria never burned down, I believe, but also in this universe, nobody is allowed to own books. The books and things of that nature are the property of the library. They can transmit the knowledge somehow. I'm not totally certain on how the magic system works here. I'm interested in it because the Library of Alexandria is like a fantasy dream location for me. And I would love to spend some time in a world where someone has imagined possibly what it would be like if it still existed. Or perhaps we're visiting an alternate universe in which it never left. Either way, it sounds like a really good time to me. The next series on my list is the Adventures of Owl series by Kristi Charish? I'm not totally certain on that pronunciation. The first book of which is Owl in the Japanese Circus. Our main character in this book, who is referred to as Owl, was a grad student studying archaeology and has become an antiquities thief, which sounds really cool. It gives me Indiana Jones vibes a little bit. And basically the first book is following her when she caves and takes a paranormal type job, which is abandoning her #1 rule. I don't know a ton about the series other than that, but it sounds like fun. The next series on my list is kind of not a cheat per se, but maybe doesn't fit in exactly with the other ones here because I've already started it, and that's The Queen of the Tearling by Erika Johansen. The first book is The Queen of the Tearling. I read that book probably about 6 or so years ago and intended to carry on the series. Then, after a point, realized that it probably wasn't going to happen and that I was likely going to have to reread the first book in order to be able to move on to the second book. So I unhauled that first book. But then I started hearing people talking about it and realized that I did in fact want to finish the series. So this is kind of more of a low priority one for me because I hate repurchasing books I already had. It's also one that maybe I should consider just borrowing it from the library, rereading the first book, and if I don't like it, or after reading that realize I didn't actually want to carry on anyway, then I'm not out any more money. So we'll see how I do with that. But basically what The Queen of the Tearling is we have this princess, and she's been raised in exile, and now on her 19th birthday she is setting off on a journey to go reclaim her throne. I remember enjoying it. I really did. I thought at first it started out a little slow, but a lot of times fantasy does that because you have to get introduced to not just the characters, but also a whole new world. So that didn't bother me so much. By the end I had really gotten into the book, but then I think it just sat for too long. So, like I said, not super high priority, but, you know, maybe in the future. The next series on my list is the Temeraire series by Naomi Novik. I have only read one thing by Naomi Novik, and that was Spinning Silver, and to be honest, I didn't like it that much. I think I ended up unhauling it. But her Temeraire series, the first book being His Majesty's Dragon, is set in the Napoleonic War era, except there are dragons. And that sounds really cool to me. I like books that have dragons just because I like dragons. And I haven't read a whole lot set in the Napoleonic War time period. And yes, I know this is like fantasy, but I still think it'd be really interesting and something different from what I normally read. The final series on my list that I would like to get to is the Book of the Ancestor series by Mark Lawrence. This one I hear talked about a little bit less than some of the others. However, what I have heard sounds amazing. The first book in the series is Red Sister, and you're following a girl who was raised in a convent where they train like assassins. So it's a book about like assassin nuns, and that sounds really, really cool. Some of the vibes I get from it is that it might have some similarities to like Nevernight, because I've heard they don't shy away, the author doesn't shy away from like a little bit like gruesome fight scenes and things like that. And I didn't mind that in Nevernight. In fact, I enjoyed that series. So I'm hoping that this one will be in that vein where you just have these badass women totally kicking ass. Here's hoping. If you have any opinions on any of the series I've mentioned, I would love to hear about it. I need some input. This is a long list and I need to narrow it down somehow. If you like my content, go ahead and subscribe. Stick around. I'd love to see you in the comments. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you soon.